Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. I'm Robert McNeely. We are awaiting President Trump as he greets the Commander-in-Chief Trophy winners, the Navy Midshipmen, of course, this past season, successful against the Army in their pursuit for not only the Commander-in-Chief Trophy, but also the highest pinnacle of college football. Of course, that was the Ohio State University Buckeyes visiting the White House yesterday. But let me tell you, the Navy Midshipmen and those Army Black Knights, great contenders last year. It will probably go into the 2025 season as well. And happy Tax Day. We know this is the favorite day of congressional Democrats. For Republicans, of course, and freedom lovers like you at home, the 4th of July is our favorite celebration, as President Reagan reminds us of that. But on this holy week, of course, it's Holy Tuesday leading up to Easter, I'd like to share some scripture with you. Of course, this Tuesday we reflect upon Jesus' teaching in the temple. This is again a day prior to the betrayal of Judas Iscariot for 30 pieces of silver. But in this beautiful celebration of the conclusion of his mission, his life, death, passion, and resurrection, we reflect on John 13:21-33 and also 36-38 from the Gospel of John. Reclining at table with his disciples, Jesus was deeply troubled and testified, "Amen, amen, I say to you, one of you will betray me." The disciples looked at one another at a loss to whom he meant. One of his disciples, the one whom Jesus loved, was reclining with him at Jesus' side. So Simon Peter nodded to him to find out who he meant. He leaned back against Jesus' chest and said to him, "Master, who is it?" And Jesus answered, "It is the one to whom I hand the morsel after I have dipped it." So he dipped the morsel and took it and handed it to Judas, son of Simon the Iscariot. After Judas took this morsel, Satan entered him. So Jesus said to him, "What are you going to do? Whatever it is, do quickly." Now none of those reclining at table realized why he said this to him. Some thought that since Judas kept the money bag, Jesus had told him, "Buy what we need for the feast or give something to the poor." So Judas took the morsel and left at once, and it was at night. When he had left it, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and he will glorify him at once. My children, I will be with you only a little while longer. You will look for me, and as I told the Jews, where I go, you cannot come. So now I will say it to you." So Simon Peter said to him, "Master, where are you going?" And Jesus answered him, "Where I am going, you cannot follow me now, though you will follow later." So Peter responded to him, "Master, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Amen, amen, I say to you, the cock will not crow before you deny me 3 times. And how many times have we each personally denied Jesus? How many times have our sins been the responsibility for why he was nailed and pierced to that cross? I know that's the case for me as we reflect on this very holy week. But for the important things that you're looking towards in life, of course, this being the most important, this week of weeks, this holy time to reflect upon the sacrifice of our Lord and Savior, but there's also the things in life that you have to prepare for, like retirement, like perhaps sending a young patriot of yours to this great university behind me, Auburn University, of course. I had the opportunity to speak to the great Paul Stone of Colonial Metals Group, one of our premier sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. This wasn't so long ago, but we always look forward to having him on the network, and we'll toss it to that interview now so you know how to protect yourself against inflation and prepare for retirement. Joined by Paul Stone from Colonial Metals Group. Sir, thank you for joining us once again. I'd like to get your take on the House spending package and the bill that went into resolution and was ultimately passed. Somewhat of a surprise because it was just by that 217, 215 threshold. Shows how narrow that majority is for the Republicans.
Yeah, well, that was something to take note of. But they all voted for it except for one. I'm torn. I'm a huge fan of Donald Trump. When I got to meet him at Mar-a-Lago at his first victory celebration, put together by Larry Kudlow's initiative that helped him and created some of the blueprint that got him back to a victorious situation with the White House rather than a cantankerous situation. I called him Braveheart. He's fighting an enemy that's already here. Sylvester Stallone had introduced him as the second coming of George Washington, but I told Mr. President Donald Trump that Washington was fighting a visiting army and navy. And this time around, Donald Trump is fighting an enemy that's already here. And so when I see that the debt ceiling needs to raise up by $4 trillion over the next 2 years, when I don't see, and I could be wrong, maybe this was adjusted, correct me please, no taxes on tips didn't make it into this one. I think it would be a larger conversation to get no taxes on Social Security, didn't make it into this one. But, whenever you're going to do tax cuts, all you're really saying is the government's going to go without money it got from you. And that's a great thing fundamentally, because we want a government that has to come to us and discuss big topics, right? They can't just print money. But if these days they're not getting money that they're used to getting, they're just going to print that money. And that's why the debt ceiling has to continue to raise up. So to me, and I'll end with this on response to your question, for someone who's just going to the ground with this, taking a farmer's approach, like just the plainest approach you could take to the economic numbers and the government and the economy and wages and inflation and the cost of commodities, just the simplest approach. If they are going to continue to print money, then they haven't cut any spending. They might be spending projectedly less than they had intended to before he came to town, but they're not cutting spending. And that breaks my heart, because that's the only thing that saves the dollar and saves and continues and stops the worsening for the American family and the American individual.
And that's a good point, because the Congressional Budget Office did say with this bill, as they scored it, that it could add to the deficit. There is part of that reconciliation package did have the no tax on tips, at least a form of that. But this was something that, took kind of the last minute to get the whipped votes together in order for passage. So we'll see ultimately how President Trump addresses this when it gets to his desk. What do you think of his plans regarding the Trump gold card? So it's with Howard Lutnick at Commerce to re-envision the EB-5 visa, where these green cards and these worker cards would be basically sold at a price. They could be, say that you have all these countries purchasing them with how they want to propose it. It could be up to $50 trillion for the United States, according to the administration. Then in turn, we have roughly a $36 trillion debt or so. How realistic do you think that could come about in the next few months or a couple of years from now?
I think it's an interesting idea, and this is what you want. You want this kind of thinking in the White House. You want entrepreneurial, think outside the box. How does our economy flourish? What brings benefit down to the people? We want their paychecks to benefit. We don't just want the government to benefit. Reagan famously, I guess, was saying to Carter. Yeah, Carter. He said, the people, the government doesn't have an inflation people. The people do. A problem. Right? Like the government doesn't care if there's inflation. They don't care. They print money. It's the people that suffer when they do print money. And so anything that can bring revenue into the country that isn't, hurtful or harmful to the people that are already here is a great idea. My thought would be, when I first heard that, great, let's stitch on for every person that pays the 5 million or whatever it was, billion or million, that they have to bring 10 people with them, 10 great people. That they open the door for 10 folks that have to deal with a 7-year naturalization process. You understand why these people just come across the Rio Grande? They've heard that it'll take 7 years for them to actually get to live here or be a citizen here. Who can go through that process if they aren't loaded in the bank? They don't have big bank accounts. We want common, awesome people to continue to move here. It would help offset the core of our economic problem, which is 70 million people retired starting in 1997. So if you can just focus on that for a second, we never had a retirement cost of any note until 1997, 98. Then all of a sudden, for the first time in American financial history, we had a gigantic loss from the productivity side and a new cost we'd never had before, gigantic cost. that worsens every year. And now the whole planet's dealing with this, and no one talks about it. There's 917 million human beings on Earth of the 8 billion that are over 70.
And to that point, that's really interesting to dive into, because President Trump has said at the CPAC conference and recently in other speeches that he wants to protect Social Security as it stands. And that's a launch from the left. You'll hear a lot of that from Democrats on the offensive, that Republicans want to dive into those funds. Are these funds sustainable ultimately? And how do we reform that and make sure that people are getting the benefits they've paid into, but also making sure we don't go bankrupt? Because even Elon Musk mentioned that during the cabinet meeting, that this is a moral issue. If the United States goes bankrupt, it's too soon, too late.
So I guess there might be a couple definitions for bankruptcy. One would be you're technically bankrupt. To me, the difference between Bernie Madoff and the federal government is that the federal government can print money. Imagine if Bernie could have printed money and paid those redemptions, those people wanting their money out of his fund. He would have never gotten discovered for what he was doing. But he couldn't print money, so he did get caught. So was he bankrupt? Did he go bankrupt? The government went bankrupt a long time ago. And if I could, I do have a Karl Rove approved whiteboard, and I've been talking about this all week. So when we look at real GDP, and I'll be quick, in 2021, the first year without Trump, GDP is $19.4 trillion. So if America Incorporated, and you counted all of its revenue, it did 19.4. In 2024, you can see there it did 23.4 trillion. So that's 4 trillion in GDP growth. Except you printed $8.8 trillion in those 4 years. So does that look like bankruptcy to you? Because that's not a profit. The economy shrank 4.4 trillion without the printed money. And then you look at the deficit for 2020, that 3 trillion folded into the 2021 numbers. 3 trillion just in 2020 alone. That folds into, I'm on the wrong hand here, the 19.4 million. I need more practice with this. So when we talk about bankruptcy, it's already there. It happened a long time ago. It happened in 2008, essentially, because without American printed money, we have a negative GDP for the last 17 years. So, oh my God, when do we feel this bankruptcy? When the ability to print money, when money has no more potency left in it, it's worth 2.7 cents today, the dollar. So when that potency reaches some mathematical place of half a penny, a tenth of a penny, maybe 1 penny, we don't know how long this actually lasts. And I know no one's talking about it. And you're sitting there going, how does Paul talk about this stuff like it's important when no one else who is important is talking about it? Because I don't think they're aware of it. I really don't think they're aware of it. I know Warren Buffett is saying, just keep saving $200 a month from every paycheck, and 40 years from now, you'll have a ton of money. I don't think so, because the dollar when he started doing that was worth 80 cents. And today it's worth 3. So that's the resource that allows us to communicate today, and me to put on a suit and talk and had a breakfast and a lunch today. Without the printed money, you don't have any of this. You have Bernie Madoff.
Yeah, some fantastic points there. And do you think there should be a balanced budget amendment that Congress really has to push forward in order to streamline and stop some of this printing of the money? Because even when I look at now, I'm turning 37 relatively soon. I look in my lifetime, to your point, the devaluing of our currency and the fact that it's harder to own properties or even a first home for many in my generation, between the millennials and the Gen Zers, and even some older, because it's just their own stock and savings, their assets against inflation becoming harder and harder. So how does the average person really handle this and stand up to what's going on in United States and world markets?
Offenses win when they go where the defense isn't. So if we're just going to sign up, your demographic, your age group, your generation. If you're thinking, well, I'm just going to go the way I've seen other people go, I'm gonna maybe have to go to college, so I'll take on some debt, and then I'll get that degree, which pays me more money when I get out of college than if I just went to high school, and then I'll I'll get that payroll going, and I'll save some money, and I'll buy a house. And it can't happen because as the government prints, young man, it causes the cost to go higher every year. It's the government that prints the money because it doesn't have the money to pay for Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare, all retiree-born costs. It doesn't have the money to pay those bills. And no one there is strong enough, long time ago, to say, hey, we need quality people to come here. When Social Security was created, there were 44 workers for a retiree. Today, there's 3. The government let all that slip. The government let all of that never get spoken about or worked on as a problem. When Reagan was president, he had the gravitas to come out and say, my fellow Americans, we need to invite good folks south of the Rio Grande to come live here. Although that might have sparked a little ire in people, and they may have been, and the politicians worried about sparking off some racism claims and all kinds of frenzy going off in America. But if they had come and said, here's the numbers, in 2025, your dollar's worth 3 cents, you owe $36 trillion, and you'll have crazy presidents like Biden and Obama changing you to have your kids to have talks in elementary school about what sex they're going to be. I think everyone in America would have said, oh my God, yeah, let's talk about this. We are a country of immigrants. We need more workers. We need more people living here. We need to do it fashionably. So the government can't stop printing this money. So what if we didn't go into this gerbil wheel of financial misery and we moved to the country, maybe with our college degree or didn't go get one, and we bought a small, tiny, meager house somewhere that we could afford it, and we actually found that happiness lived there too. Because how can you have happiness if you don't have peace? And you don't have peace if all you have is 7 days a week of stress and things that you want that you can't get, but you are the quality person to have those things like homes and cars paid for and no credit card debt. If you're the quality person that could have all that and you can't, then that's misery. And we're not even in the top 20th happiest countries on the planet. Google the list. We're 23rd. Kuwait is happier than we are. Kuwait. So when you look at what the challenges are for you guys in those younger generations, it can only get worse, brother. It can only get worse because the government's design for approaching problems like these is to print money, which creates problems they can never solve. So long ago, when we were all dealing with life and the drought came, we dealt with it. We got through it. It ended. When the plague came, it sucked, and we lost lots of friends and family, but we got through it. It was temporary. The federal government isn't temporary, and that's why life can't change. So we have to change where we go. And this is the last shot. No one is going to bring probably more momentum, logic, reason, soundness than Elon Musk and Donald Trump and his administration against this slippage of erosion of American principles and fundamentals and just financial sanity. No one's going to bring a case harder against this momentum that they've been tracking on for over 30 years against us, the Americans that live here. It's evil. So last set of numbers on this point, just to articulate. In 1971, average income in America was $9,000. And guess how much a home cost? 18 grand. Twice your average income. How easy was that? It took 2 years to save to buy a house. And guess what? Mom didn't have to go to work or stay at work if she became a mom. She could check out of the workforce and raise kids because dad's income was enough. Today, the average home price is 440 grand. And it's skewed because there's a lot of printed money in these employment payroll numbers. But average income, if you kind of account for some of that, is around $48,000 a year. So the house is almost 10x your income, and it takes on average 8 years to buy a home. And those numbers are skewed because there's a lot of, if you catch that college degree and end up in financial services, there's only a few industries left in this country, and those are usually very high paying jobs. So it skews the numbers. But if we strip that out, you might think it takes 14 years to save for a down payment to buy a home. You come out of college at 20 something, you ain't buying a home until you're 36. Wow. That's American erosion. That's where the American dream has disappeared a long time ago. Now it's just a memory. Trump working his ass off to bring that back. But those are the numbers. And numbers don't care if you're yelling from a podium Bad math only turns into good math with a ton of good math getting mixed in. Raising the debt ceiling $4 trillion over the next 2 years is not part of good math. It's part of reality, but not good math.
Oh, no question about that. The numbers don't lie. And it's affecting every other area of life. I mean, we have people getting married later, a population decrease, especially in certain demographics. And really, you only have people, I think maybe Tucker Carlson, Ron Paul, Rand Paul, perhaps Dennis Kucinich, Mike Lee, that come to mind instantly, who are really talking about how the debt is detrimental to the future of the culture and society as a whole. And as you mentioned, thank God for President Trump, thank God for Elon Musk, who are addressing it on top of all the other issues that they're facing between Doge, facing with the multitude of executive orders, and then further legislation as well, roughly within give or take 40 days in office. Now, it's just breaking news as we're talking now, but you might have caught the meeting with President Trump, President Zelensky of Ukraine, and then that press conference that did not happen. The bilateral meeting looks like it failed, at least temporarily, and Mr. Zelensky left the White House. Apparently, he was speaking to President Trump, wanting to stay for that, but sparks flew in the Oval Office, and rightfully so, as this was not going to be an easy discussion. How does the talk of gold and silver and precious commodities come into play in a situation like this for any given, individual in the United States?
Gold was $300 an ounce when the baby boomers started retiring at the turn of the century, and it's tapping on 3,000 an ounce today. So what does that say? That's just a measurement of the erosion. It continues to worsen with worldwide instability as governments everywhere struggle, fail. They fail at working with their people and their businesses and their economies to produce enough revenue to cover the costs of the country, because the whole world owes $303 trillion to itself. And so when we look at more specifically to Zelensky's behavior, he should have, his first step ought to have been, we are so grateful that we don't have to have a Russian flag flying over our capital today, and it's because of Europe and the Americans. And we'd really like this war to end and the slaughter of our brave men and women to stop. And we'd like to rebuild our apartment buildings and our power plants and our roads and stuff, schools and hospitals. Instead, he's kind of just acting like he's got it going on. He doesn't really need it. I mean, I understand Putin's the stronger, person in the room than Zelensky, right? So you gotta, I can see that Trump, perhaps, I'm just suspecting, is paying a little more airtime to that and recognizing that has to be featured and Zelensky has to be the beta and Putin kept as the alpha. And he's not liking that, but that's not going to go well. Wars and life itself is always about resources, access to resources and maintaining them. Why isn't Tom Brady throwing a football on an NFL field anymore? He lost the resource of youth. I lost the resource of hair. So when we look at how desperate all of this becomes for China, they have more homes that no one lives in than we have homes in America. I think I have that right. It's so astounding. It's hard to believe. I've read it from a few different sources. They have more empty homes that no one will live in China than we have homes in America, total. So when you just look at how the world's just breaking apart, it's fracturing as our weakness continues, our financial dominance. So I think you need gold and silver because it's not money in the dollar. You need gold and silver because it's not money in some institution you have to rely on continuing to provide you with access to your money, or a bad Microsoft update goes down and the world bugs out and you can't get on a plane or a bus or get access to your funds. I mean, who knows? The world, with more and more tech, the world becomes more and more precarious on things it doesn't fully understand or control or see warning signs of before it breaks. At least a bridge will start sending little creaky sounds to you as you drive over it, that maybe it needs some repair work done. When software goes down, boom, it's out. And this move to cryptocurrency, if someone hacks your crypto account, is there an 800 number you can call to get it back? No. What are we talking about here? You can't hack gold and silver.
Yes, some excellent points from Mr. Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals Group. And the proof is in the pudding. Since 1971, if you get the free gold guide, you can get that at freegoldguide.com/RSBN. It shows you how gold has gone up over 7,000% since the end of the gold standard by the Nixon administration in 1971 until just last year. It's never dipped down significantly. It's only been an upward trend. So thank you for the common sense points, and we look forward to having you back on Right Side Broadcasting Network live very soon. Thank you to Mr. Paul Stone.
Thank you for having me. You guys are doing incredible work. God bless you all, and I appreciate your courage and all your hard work.
Likewise, sir. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that gives you some great background, and truly the group to use, Colonial Metals Group, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Paul Stone and his team, along with great patriots like Judge Janine Pirro, bringing you this amazing opportunity, almost as golden, if you will, as the Commander-in-Chief's trophy. Of course, we're waiting for President Trump to join the Navy midshipmen in that beautiful ceremony. This is the ceremonial game between Navy and Army that takes place every year. Both teams with incredible records and football prowess that really shook up the football world this past season for great college competitors. Of course, President Trump welcoming the champions of it all just yesterday, the Ohio State University Buckeyes, to the White House. And this has been an entire week plus of great sports celebrated inside and outside of the White House. You might have caught Saturday night as well, President Trump attending UFC 314 with his granddaughter Kai, also Senator Ted Cruz, Secretary Bobby Kennedy, among other star-studded members of the cabinet and friends as well. So we had Congressman Byron Donalds also there, the future governor of Florida, and Tulsi Gabbard, the director of the DNI, and President Trump also shaking hands with the one, the only Shaquille O'Neal. So that must have been a great moment that they had together, as we captured on camera. As President Trump said yesterday with those Buckeyes, man, I thought I was a big guy, but I talked to these college athletes or professional athletes. Whoa, I'm not as tall and as big as I thought I was. But these guys, what a privilege it was for them to attend the White House and to be in the Oval Office with President Trump. And of course, an alumni of The Ohio State University, our Vice President, J.D. Vance. If you watched the earlier broadcast with my great colleague, Matthew Alvarez, you might have caught Caroline Leavitt's press conference. Of course, our great White House press secretary batting 1,000 on a regular basis against the fake news and fake narratives. And she cleaned up that narrative once again regarding an El Salvadoran who was sent to El Salvador. Thank you to President Bukele being at the White House yesterday, touching on this very issue with some fake news outlets. It took Secretary of State Marco Rubio, of course, Stephen Miller, the great special assistant to President Trump, and Attorney General Pam Bondi to set the record straight of this MS-13 member who was sent to El Salvador. And then President Bukele addressing the question, saying that I cannot smuggle a terrorist back into the United States. I don't have the power, nor would I want to do that, because I want to work with our friends and the great President Trump as well. Borders Czar Tom Homan addressing this as well. In fact, momentarily, or with the press just earlier today. We'll toss that there live now so we can help set that record straight.
Prisoners to a prison in El Salvador. Do you believe that that would be legal?
You know, someone mentioned that to me this morning. I haven't yet talked to the president. I just got back in town yesterday, so I haven't had that conversation, what that conversation was about, where it come from. But, so I'm not going to comment on that until I speak to the president directly.
But do you know off the top of your head if that's legal? Or what would your, I mean, you have obviously worked in a bridge under President Obama, now under President Trump. Do you believe that it would be legal to send American?
Oh, I don't know. Again, I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. I said, well, I mentioned this morning. I don't know the context of the question was. I don't know the context of what response or what he meant by response. I'd be opining on something I really don't have the information on. I'll get briefed on it and I'll respond to you later about it, but I'm just unfamiliar with it.
Mr. Homan, does the administration expect that those migrants that have been sent to that prison in El Salvador will remain there?
You mean the terrorists that were removed?
Will they remain in that prison in El Salvador for the rest of their lives?
This administration will obey court orders, unlike the last administration. But if you ask me if I'm in favor of returning terrorists to the United States that are gang members that have, murdered and raped young women in this country, no, I'm not in favor of that at all.
Mr. Holman, the deadline
increased
for
border apprehensions by 95% since last March. Can you describe maybe some of the success behind these numbers?
Because I worked for the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. Trump 45 is successful, unprecedented. And we're even doing better this time. President Trump, I give him all the credit because he put executive actions in place day one. He re-implemented the policies that we proved were effective. Right now, as we speak today, because of President Trump, the men and women of ICE and the men and women of the Border Patrol who stand on that line every day, today we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. No one can argue. The data's clear on that. I started in 1984. I've never seen the numbers this low. So again, the most secure border in the history of this nation, President Trump was able to do that in a matter of weeks, something that Biden administration didn't do in 4 years. Either wouldn't or couldn't, but we proved it didn't need legislation, didn't need all this other stuff that the last administration talked about. We needed a strong president who took America first and cared about American safety and securing that border. Securing the border at this level means we have a lot stronger national security because of the border.
Mr. Holman, the deadline.
There are laws on the books that make it a criminal offense to shield or harbor illegal immigrants, like the sanctuary state city leaders have been doing. Do you think they should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and possibly put in prison?
Absolutely. And hold tight on that one. Because it's coming. It's coming. I've been clear on that since day one. The sanctuary city can sit by and watch their communities get ravaged by illegal aliens. They can watch young women get raped and murdered. Trump administration is not going to stand for that. So look, they can stand by and watch. And the Trump administration will secure their communities. The Trump administration will drive down illegal and crime in this country. If they don't do it, we'll do it for them. But they can't. They can sit aside and watch, but they can't cross that line. When they cross the line of harboring concealment, that's a felony. And we got Pam Bondi now who won't hesitate to take action. They can't impede in our enforcement efforts to make this country safe again. That's a felony. So President Trump's got his cabinet in place now. We got a strong AG. We got a strong Secretary of Homeland Security. We got a great group here. We got Steve Miller, one of the most brilliant men I ever worked with when it comes to border security and interior enforcement. You're going to see a lot of things happen in the next few months that people should expect. Many don't, but watch what comes in their future.
Mr. Holman, you got Democrats that are headed down to El Salvador. What's your message to them?
We're not going to change anything. We remove terrorists in this country. They're where they should be, and they want to knock it off. What y'all be doing, y'all be in sanctuary cities in this country, taking action against the Maryland father, the Maryland illegal alien, not a father, Maryland illegal alien was arrested in the country illegally, arrested for murder, and released to the public, and it took ICE to go find him. If the Democrats will spend some time in Boston, and in Los Angeles, and Portland, and Maryland, and go to these sanctuary cities, I don't care what party you're affiliated with, Republican, Democrat, Independent, we all should want secure communities. We all should want public safety to be number one on their agenda. I can't believe there's any Democrat politician who does not want public safety threats out of the community. Their number one responsibility is protection of communities. But they'd rather go to El Salvador than fix the problem we just talked about in Maryland, fix the problem of Boston, fix the problem that just happened in Washington State. 2 illegal aliens tortured a woman, left her for dead by drilling on her to give her money, access to ATM stuff. But they're going to go to El Salvador. Makes zero sense, and that just shows how out of touch of reality the Democratic Party is.
Mr. Holman, the deadline for Real ID is coming up next month. Critics like Thomas Massey say this is a relic of the Patriot Act.
And there is a great Tom Homan, the border czar, really in control and explaining to the fake news just how ridiculous they are and the fact that the modern Democrat Party is so out of touch. This has been Caroline Leavitt's message. This has been Tom Homan's message on this very issue. He's been around since 1984, working for every president since Ronald Reagan, Republican and Democrat. And he said no border has been more secure than it is right now, over 99% secure under President Trump, and that he is the best president in his lifetime, specifically on the border issue. And what's confusing about this? It's the fact that courts don't decide how to adjudicate immigration in this country. It's the executive authority, and the president's hand in all of this under Article 2 of the Constitution. It's very plain. It's very simple. This shouldn't be a controversial issue. If you came over here illegally, you broke the law. In addition to that, how many countless have caused horrible, horrible crimes like rape and murder, the selling of fentanyl, the poisoning of American children. Tom Homan is tired of seeing children raped at the border. He's tired of human trafficking. So are we here at this network. So we'll continue to remain vocal on this. And if there are Republicans and Democrats in elected office who choose to look the other way or turn the other cheek, then we'll hold them accountable and get someone else in there peacefully and patriotically to actually follow the laws and do the bidding of the American people, protecting citizens and residents first. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, mypillow.com/RSBN. The My Mattress Topper sale going on now for a limited time only. $99.99 is the price. So do not delay. Call today because this great product is made in the good old US of A. 800-836-7566, mypillow.com/RSBN. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN. Shop now, mypillow.com/RSBN for up to 50% off of everything. That's over 2,000 items, my friends. 2,000 items going for up to half off right now. But the My Mattress Topper sale won't last long. $99.99 in all sizes, but it's going to sell out. So get there now at mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you, Mike Lindell, for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live and Kalshi.com/RSBN. When will Bitcoin hit that 150,000 mark? Is that going to be before next year? Perhaps before October or even July, right around the corner. Trade on the most important events. Scan that QR code now. Kalshi.com/RSBN is your go-to for everything when it comes to trading and bets on the most cultural, sports, or even political questions facing you and the American people in this day and age. Kalshi, KALSHI.com/RSBN. Trade live now and check it out right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Thank you for sponsoring us. And we await President Trump to present the Commander-in-Chief Trophy to the Navy midshipmen who were successful against the Army Black Knights in this annual contest, which is just amazing to see our star-studded, truly heroic military that is growing under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary of State Pete Hegseth over at the Pentagon. Recruitment numbers through the roof. And we are going away from the Obama-Biden era of DEI, of woke policies infiltrating our military. It's very simple. Meritocracy, making this the most lethal force in the world. So much so that we won't have to use the technology. Think about the F-47 President Trump has presented, and that was tested since 2007 by a top secret program now released. That is the sixth generation fighter, almost eerily reminiscent, almost a prediction from Top Gun Maverick, that great movie regarding the next gen fighters that the Chinese Communist Party has, and that maybe some in our military, especially during the Sleepy Joe, Crooked Joe, Autopen Joe era, they were not prepared. But now with the F-47, they will be amongst all of these great people who are seeking to serve in a volunteer capacity to serve our great nation. Well, that seal of the presidency is on the podium live in the East Room. And of course, right behind that, the great seal of the President of the United States, that flag adorning that beautiful ornate room where we've celebrated so many great things, whether it was the signing of the Laken-Riley Act or getting the executive order of men out of women's sports, or the official executive order to begin the end of the Department of Education. Of course, President Trump was surrounded by many students who were signing their own beautiful executive orders, putting American students first. And now today, a great celebration of an extraordinary team and our Naval Academy, the midshipmen, who were successful against their rivals, the Army Black Knights. And what I love about that game, watching that every year, you can see all of our Army and Navy, the cadets, at attention, and their Commander-in-Chief so proud of them and the efforts they've put not only into two great football teams that are making a big splash on the college scene, but also their commitment to God and country, family first. And you will not find finer individuals, finer students across the entire country, because once they graduate these incredible academies, not easy to get into, mind you, they go on for 6+ years of service as second lieutenants commissioned into the United States military, many going on to careers and life service at the highest ranks in our military. So this will be a great day. President Trump's been celebrating so many sports lately, whether it be the Ohio State Buckeyes yesterday winning it all, of course, the alma mater for our Vice President, J.D. Vance, but also UFC in Miami on Saturday night, and he did not get back to Palm Beach until 2:30 that morning, taking questions at 2 in the morning aboard Air Force One from reporters. What kind of president have we had that has gone round the clock answering the questions that are important to you, the American people? I can't remember one in my lifetime, and that includes Ronald Reagan, who was one of the finest in the modern era. In fact, my favorite picture might be when President Trump and President Reagan meeting years ago. The iconic moment when the two greatest presidents in modern history meeting each other for the first time. Two people with very similar policies, putting America first, strengthening our military, unafraid to make good trade deals that put the middle class first, that put steel manufacturing and oil drilling and all different kinds of dairy farming and producing American goods first, not foreign entities, using the Monroe Doctrine, being unafraid to put our sea to shining sea philosophy first in the driver's seat, unlike President Trump's living predecessors, whether it be Bill Clinton or George W. Bush or Barack Hussein Obama or Otto Penn Joe, who chose to put America last, who chose to put America into $36 trillion of debt, while in turn becoming very, very wealthy off of the American presidency. You know, Doge is looking into that now with Congress specifically. Why do people like Nancy Pelosi, why are they able to really do insider trading? Martha Stewart went to jail for it. She had an ankle bracelet she had to wear, and then she was on house arrest. How humiliating. That will happen to you too. But if Nancy Pelosi does it, oh, she still gets to serve in Congress. She still gets to pull the puppet strings of Hakeem Jeffries and this so-called far-left leadership who does not know what to jump on because they believe men should be in women's sports. And they don't believe in biological science, and they believe that children can be aborted in their mother's womb, or they don't want to secure a border and prevent human trafficking. That's the far left modern Democrats. Such a far departure from what JFK called for. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Can you imagine a Democrat now saying that? Would AOC say that? Would any of the radicals be talking about that, her so-called squad? What about even Chuck Schumer, who really seems to grasp at straws at this point, and even his own base turning their backs on him because he decided to keep the government open with Republicans and their House resolution in one big, beautiful bill. Interesting to see there, but we can only know by the fruits of their labor or lack thereof. But what we do know is that President Trump is the man in charge. There's no question whether or not there was an auto pen or an actual president. We once again have constitutional governance in this great nation under the leadership of Donald John Trump. And this today, in the present day, the 47th Commander-in-Chief, eager to present this Commander-in-Chief trophy to his cadets, the Navy midshipmen who were successful. If you watch that game, star-studded event that takes place annually between the midshipmen and, of course, those Army Black Knights. Both teams just extraordinary this year, playing their hearts out on the gridiron, also training to become the future leaders of this country, and who many of them go on to be career military individuals, a new Army, a new Navy focused on meritocracy and defense, lethal defense, under the leadership of Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who has just been extraordinary at the Pentagon. It's a complete shift, a complete change from Lloyd Austin and the transgender nonsense that was taking place, especially in our naval ranks. Do you remember being on the campaign trail and President Trump sharing that video of those who were serving in the military, sadly men dressing up in sundresses and putting makeup on, and somehow that became a recruitment video under Lloyd Austin? How is that defending America's women? How is that showing true masculinity? If anything, it was toxic, it was divisive, it was quite frankly disgusting, bizarre, perverted. Just some of the words that come to mind when I remember watching that video and covering the great campaign. I would shake my head watching it each time. I mean, it was funny, but it was also disgusting and disturbing. And it really drove home the point that we needed a commander-in-chief back in place to secure the United States on a national and international basis against those who would seek to do us harm. And we've seen that. We've seen horrible evils come to our shores, especially during Otto Penn's presidency. But I hope and wish him well, although the Biden crime family, as much as they want to consume the different extracurriculars they work on, especially runaway laptop hunter, but I hope that the former president is enjoying an ice cream cone now and perhaps watching this great network on the right side of history as we bring to you the truth and everything that matters to you and to your wallet at the end of the day. And speaking of that, thank you for sponsors like Colonial Metals Group doing just that. If you scan the QR code there now, you can shield your savings today and heed those warnings of Warren Buffett and other billionaires that are investing in stocks and gold and silver. From freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Yes, freegoldguide.com/RSBN. It will give you unbridled access to securing your savings today, whether that's retirement, whether that's sending your student to a great university like Auburn University. You can see the skyline of that beautiful campus right behind me. Those big things that you are making in life, purchases to, maybe it's properties, assets, saving 401ks and IRAs, which can be rolled over into gold and silver. This free, no obligation guide will detail everything about gold going up in value 840% since Y2K, the year 2000, and then up over 7,000% in 50 plus years since 1971, when the Nixon administration went off of the gold standard. Gold has gone up over 7,000% since then. Never goes down. So regardless of the government or the person in charge, you can shield your savings and you can prepare for retirement with the best group in the business. It's Colonial Metals Group. Thank you to Paul Stone, the CEO, and his team for providing us with this great coverage and access to help you, the American people, at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And there is the podium live in the East Room as President Trump is about to present the Commander-in-Chief Trophy to the Navy Midshipmen. And we know this president loves competition, he loves sports, he loves his cadets. And it's great to have the combination of the two, not only celebrating our military today, but those great athletes who they think about this. And there's some great universities. Of course, we are in the best college town in America, Auburn, of course, the friendliest and perhaps loveliest village on the plains. Not even perhaps, it is the loveliest village on the plains. We know that to be true. This president is honoring those who forego really a university environment where they could perhaps be really enjoying those later nights or just enjoying some more camaraderie. These young individuals are pledging their lives, their sacred honor, their trust to defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, swearing upon documents that are nearly 250 years young now, whether it be the Declaration, which is proudly on display in the Oval Office. Just yesterday, their rivals, the Navy midshipmen, of course, playing along with the Ohio State Buckeyes, who were successful in last year's college football season. Some of those players taking the picture with that declaration and our Constitution. These young people decide to go into these academies not only to further themselves academically and to battle on the gridiron, but to perhaps put it all on the line, flying these great planes, sailing these great ships, or perhaps going into fields and jungles and deserts in order to secure the American dream and defend the homeland from any and all enemies, foreign and domestic. And this president has their backs. And this president proudly displays that honorable title of Commander-in-Chief. And perhaps that Marine band is on display today. I don't see them quite from my purview with live shot to play Hail to the Commander-in-Chief, as you heard yesterday on the South Lawn, where they were celebrating the college football champions, the Ohio State University Buckeyes, just yesterday. So great to see that President Trump can have this time to celebrate with America's winners and those that other young people, as they're going through elementary school, middle school, high school, can look up to and think, you know what, that could be me. I can go to the Naval Academy, the Army, of course, Academy over in West Point, or maybe it is the Air Force Academy out in Colorado. Whatever the path in life, this administration open to creating the American dream, creating those opportunities to further serve. We see it in the numbers. The proof is in the pudding. Military recruitment skyrocketing under President Trump and also Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth at the Pentagon. Gone are the days of Secretary Lloyd Austin trying to accommodate the transgender DEI woke mind virus that does not belong in our military. As Pete Hegseth mentioned, a winner of several Bronze Stars, bravely doing several tours of duty in the Middle East to liberate Iraq and defend the United States homeland in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. They bravely went there, many going regardless of the flawed intelligence that came through the CIA from the Bush administration. Again, if George W. Bush is busy lecturing people on isms, I'd like to reflect upon his globalism, his abandoning of free markets to help out his buddies on Wall Street, and also sending young people to die and be maimed while his CIA said there were weapons of mass destruction. Was that true? I don't think so. But we'd love to have the former president on to discuss those things, because I don't know how you look people in the eye from your library or your museum and criticize anything this administration's doing to protect our troops in harm's way and the middle class. Both you betrayed, Mr. Bush. So think about that this Holy Week when you're reflecting upon your isms. So it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. If you are on the right side of history with this populist MAGA movement, which is the vast majority of the American people, it's we the people versus a bloated government and a deep state, a globalist philosophy that is finally dying peacefully and patriotically, because this gentleman, this man in the arena, with all of the sweat, the blood, literally, the nasty crap that's come his direction and in the direction of his family, satanic in many cases, he has stood the test of time in this last decade to serve the American people. And yes, that's President Trump as the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief coming down that escalator and simply saying, we're going to secure our borders. We're going to create a new American economy to strengthen the dollar. Our friends are going to pay their fair share, whether it be NATO, whether it be in these trade deals, and now 15 new trade deals on the table. And there's whispers right now that a trade deal has been agreed to with the great country of Italy. President Trump will be visiting, of course, with the Italian Prime Minister visiting the United States this Friday. We're looking forward to that visit, as it will now be his 13th visit from a foreign head of state. Of course, Bibi Netanyahu of Israel, the Israeli Prime Minister, visiting on 2 occasions to discuss trade barriers, also new deals, getting rid of the tariff games for the United States so that our countries can be in line freely, fairly, and making sure it benefits both of us, but also everything they've experienced since October 7th of 2023 when Hamas terrorists attacked innocent people going to a concert. We never want to see those things happen. And many of us who are around for 9/11, we remember how that changed the shape and the scope of world geopolitical affairs. We don't want something like that to happen again. And that's why I'm grateful on a daily basis that President Trump is in office. We know who the commander-in-chief is. We don't have to worry about an autopen who enjoys eating ice cream cones and having an empty work schedule every day of the week, every day of the year, every day of the month. It was like, where is this guy? The cognitive decline was horrible to watch. And House Speaker Mike Johnson confirmed it when he became House Speaker. It took him weeks to get a meeting with then President Biden, the autopen, of course, and his staff decided to ambush the meeting until Sleepy Joe said, "You need to go. And we have to meet, just me and Mike, one-on-one." And then they began to argue peacefully and patriotically over something he signed or did not sign. He said, "Sir, that was a big deal. You signed it. I can go to your secretary right now and get the transcripts." He's like, "Mike, I didn't sign that." So who was in charge? Perhaps investigations are happening, but as Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna has been very tough with exposing and dialing into the Crossfire Hurricane documents that were declassified by President Trump, the JFK and RFK, the MLK files, also the federal secrets of 9/11, perhaps beyond the report, beyond that Warren Commission who looked into the JFK assassination. We'll finally get the truth of what's happened in our government post-World War II. And we owe this to the people with family members still living who wonder exactly what happened to their loved ones. In many cases, great leaders in American civil rights and in the 60s. Think about that with JFK and RFK and MLK. Where would we have been without their leadership? And ultimately, they laid down their lives for this great country because it wasn't about Republican or Democrat. It was about you. It was about the founding documents. It was about defending these principles against a bloated bureaucracy like President Eisenhower spoke on when he left office, warning us of the military-industrial complex and its ties to deep state globalism. It's come true. It's everything that you might have been mentioned or named in the past if you were, a conspiracy theorist about all of this stuff. Well, isn't it funny how the truth has come out thanks to great social media sharing and the fact that everyone has one of these now, or most people do, so you can film it in real time if there's a horrible assassination attempt like we saw on July 13th. Or you can share this information on places like Rumble or Truth Social, many other social media sites that were the response to those that attempted to shadow ban a sitting president of the United States, or cancel other people, or take J6 prisoners and silence them without giving them a due and speedy trial guaranteed to them as American citizens in the United States Constitution. Or how about those who prayed outside of Planned Parenthoods? Thank God President Trump has pardoned these people, thousands in many cases, and for those who are also commuted in their sentences because they were just using their freedom of speech. They did not harm anyone. They did not take anyone else's rights away, but rather they simply were standing up for truth and wanting to share their perspective and their opinion. And let's just play devil's advocate. Let's say they were lying. Let's say they were standing up for something that was not trustworthy. Well, guess what? You still have that right to do so in this country as long as you don't harm anyone or take away their liberties. You can speak your mind, freely speak your mind. God knows we see it with the far left on a regular basis with their organized crime in many cases, or think about BLM during COVID. And all of a sudden people like from the Prairie State that very unhealthy governor, J.B. Pritzker, he was out at those marches without a mask on while he was telling everyone else to wear a mask or to socially distance. But then he was stoking the fires of racism, all while marching under a line that everyone, of course, would agree with. But they were pushing a communist agenda. If you look to their website, they wanted to deconstruct and destroy the nuclear family. Harkens back to people that have been doing it for a long time. If you look at the Communist Manifesto or Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky, it all goes hand in hand. And we know you, the American viewer, smarter than these deep state bureaucrats, these globalists who want to run your life. And you responded with that great vote on November 5th of 2024, peacefully and patriotically, fulfilling the foundation and the hopes and dreams of the founders of this great nation. As you could see there, the father of this country, General George Washington, our inaugural first president, standing gloriously over that Commander-in-Chief trophy that will be presented to the Navy Midshipmen in just a moment. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live, freetrumpbook.com. What a great gift for this Holy Week, this Easter, the gift that is the United States founding documents and the reason why they exist, all brought to you by this great man, the ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas. Of course, his successor, his daughter, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, doing an outstanding job in the Razorback State. Also, one of President Trump's greatest press secretaries from the first term. All of the fake news she had to take on. They have brought you this Kids Guide to President Trump, among many other guides that showcase how great this nation is, whether it was the suffrage movement, to civil rights, to the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, why they're different, how in some ways they are the same, and the courage, the Kids Guide to the courage of President Trump, why he ran for office in the first place, why he ran again, why he was one of very few people to receive 3 consecutive nominations to become president of the United States. All these questions answered in these free guides, and the best part about it, they're free. All you have to do is pay for shipping and handling, freetrumpbook.com. Go there now. They make great stocking stuffers. If you don't want to necessarily give an Easter gift in the Easter basket, or you have plenty of other gifts planned for celebrations this year and want to save it for Christmas, also a great idea to get on top of that Christmas shopping before it gets too busy. Free Trump gifts for your kids or for that neighbor next door who seemingly has their head in the sand still. freetrumpbook.com. Thank you to Mike Huckabee and these great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. And there's again a live shot of the East Room of many members of our military. It looks like Navy and Army on hand as well in senior leadership from the Pentagon. And I'm looking throughout there to see if we have any other dignitaries, any elected officials. Sometimes a little bit harder seeing the back of their heads. It does look like Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is there. That would be very appropriate considering he is at the head of the Pentagon. And these are those, although a great college football team, these are these gentlemen and ladies who are being commissioned to become officers in our military. So they give a 6+ year commitment by attending the Naval Academy, of course, West Point with our Army, or even that Air Force Academy all the way out west, or whatever branch of military they so choose to serve in. This is a huge honor, not only to get the recommendation of your congressman or senator when applying to these great institutions, but to have the support of your Commander-in-Chief. And this Commander-in-Chief trophy, a huge honor. This is the traditional game that is played in Maryland between the Navy Midshipmen and also the Army Black Knights on an annual basis. And it's usually right around November, of course, Thanksgiving weekend or right after that. And those usually cold temperatures to see the gridiron greats take each other on. It is an ornate ceremony that is filled with tradition, filled with honor. but also two great college football teams going mano-a-mano. And for two teams that have historically not done, say, as well as other divisions or other teams throughout college football, both put on quite a display and had many victories over the course of last year and were consistently within the top 10 or top 20 pollings or rankings for college football last season. So we'll see if they can build on that, perhaps go for a national championship, as we are under a whole new parameter of that with the top 12 teams going in for the championship. So very similar to what we just witnessed with March Madness. Of course, it's the top 64 teams for men's basketball and women's basketball, but also 12 teams for the college football series. A new era for college football and college sports as a whole, as we await President Trump to present this Commander-in-Chief trophy to the Navy midshipmen. A hard-fought game, very much well-earned, as President Trump is focused on building a new, robust military that features meritocracy, that features lethal readiness on day one. And now we've seen an increase in the amount of military members that we do have with recruitment. It's going very, very well. So you have to think to yourself, the proof here is in the pudding. It's very simple that people wanting to sign up for this new American military clearly are in line with what President Trump is doing, what Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is leading on a daily basis from the Pentagon. Because the last administration was the Autopen administration. It was DEI. It was wokeness. And although we're very happy that Secretary Lloyd Austin, a decorated veteran himself, is okay, he decided to leave for a week and not notify anyone. Karine Jean-Pierre, that woke DEI press secretary under the Autopen, never mentioned it until reporters found out about it and then asked about the fact that that happened. Can you imagine for a second if Pete Hegseth had to go out for surgery and no one knew about it? There'd be hell to pay. I mean, look how they went crazy over the Signal issue when it was declassified. There was no classified information within those texts. Yes, it was a mistake to add the reporter onto the Signal chat, but nothing was classified. And it turned into this he said, she said, and then like you saw yesterday with the fake news berating President Bukele of El Salvador, President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and Special Assistant Stephen Miller, who had to go out and talk to press after the meeting once again about this supposed alien who went back to El Salvador. And this father, as many of them put it in certain outlets from Maryland, he was not a resident nor a legal citizen of the United States. He was an MS-13 gang member, and that means he was a foreign terrorist because President Trump documented that on day one coming back into office, that those in the cartels, the MS-13, Tren de Aragua, and all other of these awful gangs that are shipping and putting fentanyl and poison into the United States and raping and killing residents of this great country. Oh, and in turn, also by the numbers, harming more Hispanics and the black population in the United States than anyone else. These people are no longer welcome in the United States. So first of all, illegal. Second of all, foreign terrorists. So then President Bukele had to tell this fake news anchor that he did not have the power, nor would he want to smuggle a terrorist back into the United States. How would that serve his country well in these new bilateral agreements that have taken place between our two great countries? Two administrations that have literally fallen to their knees asking God for guidance and for teamwork and for prosperity. El Salvador was once the most dangerous country in the Western Hemisphere, and that's all changed now, because of great leadership on the part of President Bukele and the partnerships he wants to make throughout Central America and South America, and of course with the United States. And he said to President Trump, we are more than happy and more than welcome to put these criminal terrorists to justice. And of course there is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth there, as we welcome in the team the Navy midshipmen, these great future leaders of our country and in our military, rightfully deserving the Commander-in-Chief trophy. We'll toss that there now live to the East Room at the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. Please. Good to be with you. Good-looking people behind me. Too many good-looking people. Never like that many. You look great. We had a wonderful team here yesterday, Ohio State. They also had an incredible season, as you know. And we had the Dodgers here. They just won the World Series last year, World Series, so we have a lot of people celebrating at the White House. There's no place like it. Very special, very, very special. And it's an honor to have you all. And I want to say, number one, at ease. Just enjoy yourself. You can take it. I'm the boss here. You can take it. You don't have to listen to them for that. Just, you're going to have a good day. And if it's okay, I'm going to invite you over to the Oval Office when we're finished and present you with a little something special. Okay? Sure. Let's finish up and we'll head over to the Oval Office together. Okay. Today it's a great honor to officially present the Commander-in-Chief's trophy to the 2024 Navy Midshipmen football team. A great team, really great team, great people. Congratulations. And we're thrilled to be joined by a proud Marine Corps veteran Vice President J.D. Vance. J.D.? Where's J.D.? What the hell happened to J.D.? Because he was just here. He must have gotten a call from China. He'll be here. Along with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Thank you, Pete, very much. You're doing a great job, too. The Houthis aren't doing very well, but you're doing well, aren't you? Huh? Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, friend of mine, great guy, very successful person, by the way. our new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Raisin-Cane. Where is he? There he is. I talked about him in my speeches for years. Who knew I was going to be appointing him to be the top? And it's an honor. It's a real honor. Everything you did with me was perfect about it. Thanks, Dan. Acting Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral James Kilby. Admiral, thank you. Congratulations. And Superintendent of the Naval Academy, Vice Admiral Yvette Davids. Yvette? Oh, hello, Yvette. How are you, Yvette? But I especially want to thank and congratulate Athletic Director Chet Gladchuk, who will soon retire after 24 years. I looked at him and I said, this is a young-looking guy. I don't like this retirement stuff. But after 24 years, and he's going to do other things, I guarantee you that it'll also be incredible. But it's going to be very hard to top what he's done as Athletic Director. He's had the honor of 4 national championships, 251 conference titles, and 352 All-American athletes. That's not bad. Where are you? Where are you? That is not bad. So you had all of these All-American athletes. Any name athlete that really stands out, or were they just all great athletes? Everyone, as far as you're concerned, they're all the same, right? Great job you've done. What a record that is. Who has a record like that? I also want to thank some of the newly appointed members of the Naval Academy's Board of Visitors. Sean Spicer is here, and Walt Nauta. Now, Walt could be, he's thinking about going to Guam someday, and he'll be taking over as governor, but we won't mention that right now, Walt, will we, huh? He's fantastic. He's been with me for a long time, and he's great. And Sean, where's Sean Spicer? Sean, congratulations. It's a great honor. I can tell you, a lot of people wanted that position, so you guys are going to do it well. I have no doubt about it. The story of this incredible season began last February when the Navy football team entered the weight room for the winter workouts. I wish I could have joined you, but I just never was. I was never too much into lifting weights. I should have done it. I could have been president someday if I did. After 4 disappointing seasons, they were so disappointed, your coach, Brian Newberry, plastered pictures of this magnificent trophy on every wall to remind you of the ultimate prize. And in 2024, you lived up to Coach Newberry's vision, and you showed the world, the midshipmen, and that you know how to fight, and win, right? And that's what you did. That's what you did. Wow. That's a hell of a trophy. How much does that weigh? I don't know. Am I supposed to carry that? I don't think it can be done. I hear it's quite heavy, actually. You won 10 of 13 games, including 9 by double digits. You beat Air Force. You beat Army. And now this 170-pound trophy, that's what it is yours once again. And I have to tell you, you had some brilliant players. On offense, you were led by an incredible fullback, team co-captain, Daba Fofana. Where is Daba? Where are you? Come on. Is he hard? Coach, is he a hard guy to tackle? Could I tackle him running full speed? You don't suggest it, right? You want to say something? Come on.
I'm just going to say we couldn't have done it without Brian Newberry here, my co-captain here, Colin Ramos, and just everyone buying into the mission. And I'm excited. Praise the Lord.
Thank you. That's a great player, huh? That's great. Thank you very much. It's really beautiful. We have, on offense, we have a quarterback who is also very, very special. I hear he's great. Blake Horvath. Blake, where are you, Blake? Where are you? Come on up here. He said both strong and accurate on, please.
Oh, appreciate it. No, it's an honor, right, to share this stage with President Trump, and I speak for the team when I say that. So thank you for having us, and it's all about the team. Trophy's the team. So great honor. Thank you, sir.
Are you being back, or are you?
Yes, sir. I'll be back next year.
Oh, I'm going to be watching. I hear you. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Blake. We're going to all be watching. This year, Blake tied the school record for touchdown passes in a single season, rushed for more than 1,200 yards. Wow, that's pretty good. And set a new school record for the longest rushing touchdown when he faked a handoff during a read option, carrying the ball 95 yards into the end zone to help beat Oklahoma. That's a serious team. We're not playing games here, Coach. Wow, is he a pretty good runner? Is he fast?
He is.
That's amazing. 195 yards for a quarterback. I'd say that's pretty good. But because of your teamwork, the Midshipmen had the 6th best rushing offense and the number 1 red zone touchdown offense. That's a big deal in all of college football. A truly amazing achievement. But to succeed, you have to excel on both sides of the ball, and the Midshipmen had the number 4 ranked red zone defense, led by one of the best tacklers in college football, linebacker and defensive captain, Colin Ramos. Where is Colin?
I'll say something.
Say a couple.
It's an absolute honor to be here. It was an amazing season. I'm so proud of these guys, and thank you, President Trump, for having us. Really an honor. Thank you.
I'll bet you're a tough guy. Huh? You got to do that. You got to be tough. Congratulations. Beautiful. That's beautiful. Great, huh? Opposing teams feared your secondary, especially the first ever Midshipmen with 2 pick sixes in a single game. Comeback. It was a big comeback to Sean Peel.
Yeah, we're just very grateful to be here. Yeah, that's it, really.
It's called the strong silent type, right? Thank you very much, Deshaun. And no one can forget contributions of the All-Star Safety Special Teams Player of the Year, and I guess an NFL prospect. A number of them are Ray Lane. Ray?
Yeah, I just want to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you for the support. And, go Navy, beat Army.
In December, I was honored to personally attend the 125th Army-Navy game in a battle that would be one of the best ever between the schools. It really went down in the history books, Coach. After you held the lead all game, the fourth quarter Army offense prepared to tie it up. They were getting right down there. I was there to watch, and you showed something that was amazing. You showed a very brilliant game time, Coach IQ, I guess you'd call that, huh? Were you happy with the end? Yes, you were very happy. Did you think you were going to win the game at that point? Okay, he's got to say that, but it was pretty amazing, actually. You faked the 4th down punt and gave the ball to the 6-foot-tall, 285-pound nose guard, Landon Robinson, who found the seam and rumbled 29 yards down the field to clinch the victory and to beat Army. Okay, where are you now? Where are you? Come on. Wow. I wouldn't want to tackle him.
Thank you, sir. First off, I just like to say thank you to Mr. President for inviting us. Super thankful. Wouldn't be here without my teammates, without my coaches for, calling the play and making sure that it was open for us to run it. So super thankful and excited for years to come. So
great job.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Got to be a hard guy to tackle, wouldn't it, Coach? It's painful. It's called painful. Great job. With the win, this trophy, you secure your spot as one of the greatest teams in Navy football history. That's a tremendous honor. You've had some great teams. As president, I've no higher honor than serving as the commander-in-chief of the America's Armed Forces. And I have to tell you that I've gotten to know so many of the people at the academy, not only football players, just people generally. Roger Staubach is a friend of mine and a great person. Played golf with him. And the last time I played with him, he hit a shot, looked like we were in trouble, and he came out from behind a tree from about 130 yards away. He had no shot to the green, and it ended up about 6 inches from the hole. And I said, well, that's Roger Staubach, right? That's him. He was great. I tell you, when he played, he'd drop back, and he was in a different league. He was really amazing. What a player. What a player. What a great guy he is. But he loves your place. Since I took the oath of office, the spirit of our military has soared to new heights. Today, I'm proud to announce that in February, the U.S. Navy had its best recruiting numbers since 2002. That's a long time ago. And under my administration, the Navy is on track to have the best recruiting year since the start of the war and the war on terror. But going back further than that, probably 25 to 30 years. So I can say this strongly. About 7 months ago, Pete, they were having numbers that were a disaster. And over the last 2 months, 2.5 months, the numbers have gone through the roof. So it's great. Michael, same thing. And the numbers went through the roof. And it's also true with all of the armed forces, and it's true with our police, with our firemen. There's a lot of spirit right now in the country that we didn't have 6 months ago. So that's an honor. But you have your highest recruiting numbers in about 20 years, and that's fantastic. That's pretty good, Sean, when you hear that, right? Pretty good. You can be proud. Within this amazing group of young men are 23 seniors who will graduate next month, including 13 Navy ensigns and 10 Marine Corps second lieutenants. Over the past 4 years, they've grown morally, mentally, and physically in preparation for their service to our nation. They're not just great football players, and you can see this, that they are just amazing people. They're true American warriors and future submarine captains and fighter pilots and Marine infantry and Navy SEALs. And we have I shouldn't say this too loud because some people aren't thrilled, but I'm thrilled. We have the largest budget we've ever had. We're buying gorgeous new ships, gorgeous new. And, John, you're going to be working on that. He's a great John. Phelan's a great businessman, one of the best. And you're going to get that job done. And we're going to make them beautiful-looking ships, too. The look is very important to me, John. You know, a lot of times they'll show me a ship or a plane, and I say, that doesn't look good. They say, well, it's stealth. I said, I don't care if it's stealth or not. We're going to change it if we have to. I'm not sure I believe so much in the stealth thing, but we want the most beautiful equipment, the best equipment. That's what we're going to get, and you're going to lead the way, and I'll help you too because I like doing that stuff. And we're going to get a lot of ships, a lot of planes, and for all of the armed services. So I appreciate it, John. Do a job. And I just say to the gentleman behind me, your commitment is something very special. And as long as I'm Commander-in-Chief, the United States will always have the strongest, fiercest, and most powerful Navy on the sea. And again, we're going to restock it like it hasn't been restocked before. We're going to have $1 trillion budget. Think of it. You know, it's like crazy. It's crazy, but more than anybody else by double. And we're going to be in a league. I rebuilt our armed forces in my first term, got them almost entirely rebuilt. Then we had a catastrophe known as Biden, and in Afghanistan, he gave so much of the equipment away, but still it was only a small fraction of what we had done. And we're restocking it now, and we're going to have something that nobody's ever had before. So I'm counting on all of you people in the front to get out there, and we got to get the best equipment in the world. And we're going to pay the price, but we're going to get the best equipment in the world. We have to have it. Lots of ammunition, too. We get a little low on ammunition. I came into office, and first time they said, sir, we're very low on ammunition. I said, don't say that to the enemy. I don't want the enemy to hear that. And I came in this time, and they said, sir, you're low on ammunition again. We gave a lot of it away, you know that. But we have to keep a lot of it. We have to keep it for ourselves also. So we're going to work together, and we're going to do something great, Pete. And you're going to do a fantastic job doing the job you're already doing. You've made a big impact. So I'd like to now introduce a very special man, a great coach. You would rate him great, right? Good or great? Good. Oh boy, I'm glad you said that. Would I be in trouble if he said anything? But there's nothing much you can say because we see his record. So, Coach, could you say a couple of words, please? Brian Newbrow. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And many thanks to your staff for taking care of us today and herding us around the building. Appreciate that. And many thanks to everyone here in attendance to honor these special young men here today. We're humbled and grateful to be here. The highest honor and the most important tangible goal in our program is to be standing here in the White House with our Commander-in-Chief and all of you here today. Proudly representing the United States Naval Academy, the entire brigade of midshipmen, and all the men and women serving in our Navy and our Marine Corps, both past and present. The young men here on the stage and some of them out here in the audience are some of the best and the brightest that our country has to offer. In a little over a month, these 23 seniors, these incredible young men standing behind me, will graduate and commission as officers in the United States Navy and Marine Corps under your command, Mr. President. And they will do so with tremendous character and the core values of duty, honor, courage, and commitment. I know there have been a lot of great teams. You mentioned some of those earlier, come through here, collegiate, professional, world champions, national champions that have been honored here at the White House. But Mr. President, this is your team. This is America's team. And the CIC trophy is the most coveted and honorable trophy in all the college sports. And it's our objective to come back here and get to know you a little bit better over the course of your tenure. This time I'd like to bring up our two captains, Daba Fofana and Colin Ramos, to present you, Mr. President, with a couple of nice gifts.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Go Navy. Beat everyone.
Wow, that's a beauty. That's fantastic. Let me do this. Come on up. You guys, come on over. Come on over, Coach. Thank you very, very much. And we're going to bring the team and a few of your special friends down to the Oval Office. And we're going to have some fun, so I'll see you down there. And I'll carry this with me and I'll pretend I'm a great football player. Okay? Thank you all very much.
Hey, it's Coach Newberry stealing my colors today. Nice blue shirt and gold tie for his Navy midshipmen. Again, congratulations to these great warriors on the gridiron. But as President Trump said, future commanders in our naval forces, whether it be by plane, by ship, of course, submarine, as well as a number of talented engineers, they go to these academies and then pledge 6+ years serving the United States, and many of them going on to being great admirals, generals, and leaders within the ranks of the United States military. And they are departing following their commander-in-chief to the Oval Office for more ceremonial gifts, and I'm sure many pictures, maybe including in front of that beautiful Resolute desk, and also the Declaration of Independence among 20 different portraits of great leaders, including some of this nation's finest commanders-in-chief that adorn that office. Just some of them being President, of course, George Washington, the founder and father of this great nation, General George Washington, over the mantle. Also, FDR and Ronald Reagan, all ordaining that beautiful office of gold. President Trump truly Trumpifying the Oval Office, and it looks better than ever. But these are the fun days for President Trump to really relax amidst many negotiations and deal making, and in his pursuits of making America great again. Thank you to Colonial Metals Group for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. You can scan that QR code there to shield your savings. Of course, Paul Stone, the CEO of this great group, urges you now to go to freegoldguide.com/RSBN, freegoldguide.com/RSBN, heeding the warnings of Warren Buffett and other billionaires who put their money not only into stock market, but properties, assets, 401ks, IRAs that can be rolled over into gold and silver. freegoldguide.com/RSBN. Colonial Metals Group, thank you for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. Of course, MyPillow, the My Mattress Topper sale going in all sizes for a limited time now. So do not delay. Call today. It's made in the good old US of A for $99.99. What better deal can you get out there? 800-836-7566. It's 800-836-7566. Of course, Mike Lindell, the great purveyor of the free speech and election integrity, but also one of the best businessmen out there with all of his quality products. 2,000, in fact, for up to 50% off of the website, mypillow.com/RSBN. All made in Minnesota. Support Mike Lindell and RSBN by going to mypillow.com/RSBN. Thank you to Mr. Lindell for sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network Live. And if you cannot get enough of this great stuff here at this network, your go-to live desk. Of course, we are based here in Auburn, Alabama, the friendliest village on the plains, the loveliest village on the plains. And there is a live shot from Toomer's Corner on the intersection of Magnolia and College. The beautiful quad, and it looks like a lovely day outside. We've had these beautiful brisk spring mornings that have been nice and cool, leading into warmer afternoons, and a great opportunity for R&R and some exercise on campus and just off of campus. A beautiful day here in Auburn, Alabama. Get America First updates and exclusive offers at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. If you wish to opine and share with us any America First stories out there, perhaps in your neck of the woods, of course, feedback at rsbn.tv. Send your thoughts to feedback at rsbn.tv. And if you'd like to donate to the right side of history, so us citizen journalists here can get you all of the great stories, whether in print or on broadcast. Of course, that is rsbnetwork.com/donate, or by texting RSBN to 801-801. Texting RSBN to 801-801 or visiting rsbnetwork.com/donate can take care of that there for you. Always a pleasure to be with you here on the right side of history. I'm Robert McNeely. For all of my colleagues at Right Side Broadcasting Network, unless there's live news, we're done for today, but we will see you tomorrow for more Easter celebrations and Holy Week as God is with us and we celebrate the final mission culminating in the life, death, passion, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. It's also Passover, our Jewish friends celebrating that wonderful commemoration of Exodus, where Moses led God's chosen people out of hundreds of years of slavery in Egypt, out into the desert, but to that holy promised land of Israel. So much to celebrate in this spring renewal and revival. Again, congratulations to the Navy Midshipmen on the Commander-in-Chief Trophy. Get all of your America First updates and exclusive offers here at your go-to live desk, Right Side Broadcasting Network at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. I'm Robert McNeely. For all my colleagues here at RSBN, have a wonderful afternoon. God bless you, and we'll see you here on the right side of history tomorrow.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First news. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
President Trump is keeping his promises and saving America. And your kids can learn all about it for free with a new Kids Guide to President Trump. This fun guide shows kids all the steps President Trump is taking to put America back on top of the world stage, including building a strong economy, protecting our borders, and negotiating trade deals. It's an exciting way for kids to learn about President Trump's outstanding leadership. Act now and get a free bonus guide, The Courage of the President. Order now at freetrumpbook.com. That's freetrumpbook.com.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live Show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.